embodiment or experience of that cannot go along with corruption and politics and neoliberalism. So, with all my respect for people here from Saudi Arabia, if the government of Saudi Arabia represents itself as an Islamic kingdom, from the way I see it, it's an Islamist regime that is in cahoots, is a bedfellow with who? With who?
Well, the USA,
yes.
The strongest ally.
Right, right? Okay, so this is part of what I do as an Arab Muslim feminist. Is like I unpack and I unpeel those hidden acts in bed between discourses and powers that don't seem that they are working together, but they are working together particularly based on patriarchy.
Well, I can share that I have the same perspective of view like of yours in my country. I'm from Mexico.
Okay.
So we do have the same thing from Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exactly the same. Like government use that in order to like manipulate minds.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean a person who is working in anti-oppressive, within anti-oppressive theories or epistemologies, do they have to be non-spiritual or non-religious?
Well, does it mean that every government in every country, no matter what, uses some religion to, I mean, would that be a stretch to say make us do it?
All countries in the world?
Well, it sounds like you're talking about America has it, Mexico has it,
Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia has it. I'm wondering if you look deep enough, you'd find that every country has some religious way that or some way they're manipulating based on religion. But it's just a thought.
Well, there are attempts, right, to keep religion private and separate church and state. But those attempts are still being sabotaged in very subtle ways, and that's part of educators and scholars and activists' job to expose it.
I don't believe that Iceland has a state religion.
Right, there's some countries who've succeeded for decades without that.
And Germany really doesn't have much of it anymore. Church of England is finally dropping away. It's not.
But still religious, and we're talking about the three monolithic religions. The three of them we struggle with in relation to gender equity and sexuality, right?
Which are?
Islam, Christianity, and Judaism.
Mm-hmm. Buddhism doesn't seem to have a whole lot of
right?
patriarchalism, whatever.
So I'm taking what is thought as religion to work with through feminism to do my work. So I represent, or I look through my lenses as a Muslim, but my Muslimness is evolving, changing, dynamic, and different in different times in my life, and different in different contexts, and different from so many people. So there's no such thing as one kind of Muslimness. And particularly my Arab Muslim feminist framework that I use and I draw on is based on the ethics that I live and I work with, because I was raised by my grandmother, who was very religious and knew the text and taught me the text throughout my childhood. And it's based on ethics that are basically universal. Ethics of care, justice, compassion. So I work with the participants in my projects with those ethics as an Arab Muslim feminist. And it's a complicated process. And to give you one of the tenets of quote-unquote critical feminist epistemology, not just feminist epistemology, is an analytic tool that is very crucial to pay attention to if you're interested, is what we call critical self-reflexivity. So this is one of the tools that we use in research and pedagogy, I would say, to question consistently and candidly with ourselves and with others about that negotiation of difference. For my participants, or the participants of the project that I have, no matter what, we have power differentials between us, just for the mere fact that I'm a professor, right? No? So at every encounter I have with them, I have to think during that encounter and afterwards, how did I negotiate that power difference? How did that negotiation help me or hinder me in seeing or having the insights of of that kind of interaction? How did it help me or hinder me reading the data? So, and I'm mentioning this to you, and I'm having 1 hour with you, and I'm just like excited just to share a little bit, just to intrigue you with things, or maybe some concepts and ideas that will help you jump early into learning the skills to do data analysis, which is something that we hardly train students to do in this institution. Because you take quantitative and qualitative research courses, correct? You might take 2 methodology courses like interviewing and action research, and then it stops all of a sudden, and then you get to your thesis or dissertation and you get to the analysis and you go, oh my God, what do I do here? And it's a hard job for us as supervisors, plus it's daunting to you. So I'm just like teasing you with a little bit so that you begin to think about what do we do at that stage of analysis. Quantitative researchers don't have much of a problem with that because they can crack numbers on software. But qualitative researchers have it different, and especially anti-oppressive feminist researchers.
So what are you trying to accomplish in your own research now?
Okay, so at this moment, and it'll be starting in 2 weeks, I am going to meet 4 communities in Chicago to discuss with them how I can share my analysis of what I call the hijab discourse that you read a little bit about in the paper, and see the way they make meaning of it. I'm not imposing anything on them. And it will be an encounter with 30 people in each community in Chicago, but at the same time, we will be recording this to produce a theater piece and a documentary. Because the word hijab is very tenuous, whether in an Arab Muslim context or in the US. And when I have half an hour with people, even when they read my work, it's still very difficult to unpack, and for us to, or for most people, to unlearn what that word started to mean on basically 2 opposite sides. And I thought that one of the ways, besides continuing to write, is to produce a theater piece and a documentary that can begin, again, to help people unpack that, the meaning of this one word that is loaded. Yeah? So this is where I am right now.
You're going to write the play yourself?
No, I'm collaborating with a theater director and scriptwriter. I'm just going to be doing my interaction with people, teaching and researching, but they will be part of collecting the data, the team who collects data. They will be inspired differently on what this means and how they're going to bring it to the theater.
The Book of Mormon did pretty well, so maybe you'll have equal success.
I don't have the same agenda though. In the same.
I mean,
at
the Book
same-
of Mormon was a very successful play.
No, I hear you, but
Yeah.
at the same
Musical.
time, you need to know as scholars that once you write and publish, you have no control of what is done with the meaning that people make out of your work. Whether it's in a film or a piece of theater, you have no control. So it's a big responsibility, yeah. I don't know if we have, how much time we have, but I'm open also if you want to ask specific questions on the piece that you read. I shared it with Dr. Pierre because I thought it was, I shared with him other pieces, but I think you might find it very, I'm not praising myself, but very well structured. That helps you to see the framework, the theoretical framework, the concepts I'm working with, the methodology, the methods, the analysis. And so I learned that type of writing, I do a different kind of writing right now, but that kind of writing, I learned it from my supervisor who is also here in the College of Education, Dr. Kim Oliver, who was superb in the way she taught me methodology. So this is an example of like a very structured piece that may help you see how feminist or feminist, critical feminist work is done.
I have a question concerning the process.
Yeah.
And I asked questions with another person who was in here about qualitative. When you have your results and you're analyzing and you're giving details about what the girls said, what about their parents? I mean, a lot of that was very secretive, and they didn't want their parents to know, and also, how do you deal with all of that?
Good question. There's another piece on that,
Okay.
but all those pieces are in the book. And I think the book is just coming to the zoo right now. So that piece about the parents is part of one chapter on what I call entry and access, and another one is about adding the parents as secondary participants. Okay? To start that story from the beginning, when I applied for the IRB approval, the board brought back the consent form and said, no, you have to write another consent form especially for parents, because all of those girls were under 18 years old, right? So you need to have another consent form for the parents that includes a clause that prohibits them more or less from asking you what went on in your time that's spent. You need to have the consent of the girl first. Unless, of course, it's going to be risky. That's my responsibility anyway, right? If I knew one of the girls were doing something risky, I need to report first to the university authorities, to the parents, okay? And of course to have wherever she's putting herself in danger, to the police, to the psychiatrist, to the psychologist, etc. And I did go through some really challenging moments. And one of them was we were walking out to go to the pool, and one of the girls popped a Coca-Cola, and I didn't make anything of it, right? So that evening, the mother called me and said some of my friends, probably, whoever was on campus, saw us and said, you allowed her to break her fast, it's Ramadan. I have no control over the girls telling them do this and do that, right? And she said, did she break her fast? So ethically, what do you think I should do? According to the consent forms that I made the parents sign and the girls sign, what do you think I should do? At that moment when the mother called me.
So the parents, you had a clause that said, I can't disclose,
Right.
so then you would have to follow that, I would have been.
Right, so what should I say to the mother?
I'm sorry, but I can't disclose.
So, but she insists. And she says, but I want to know. I'm like,
Ask her.
Oh, good one. So I said, I know you're a good mother and you trust your daughter, and I know you have a great relationship. I cannot remember we signed that agreement. You need to ask her. And I said, she says, but you should tell her that it's Ramadan. I was like, I can't be doing that kind of work for her, right? So, but then I followed it up, and I went and saw the mother, because I needed to keep that relationship of trust. And I explained. I mean, she's a little kid. She was 14. We just played basketball. She must have been thirsty. What do you think the interpretation of the text would say about that? She made an excuse and she was okay about it. But you need to be persistent about keeping the trust relationship with all the participants, including the parents.
And it continued after that fight? I mean, once you had to
Yeah.
talk with the parents?
But it's a lot of work to do this kind of research with young girls, or boys, for that matter. So the piece is about access. So to continue on this, I could have lost access of continuing the research, at least with that particular girl, correct? So don't assume that access is just by participants signing your consent form. Access is a negotiated process throughout the study that you have, even sometimes a bit after, right?
I have a question regarding the participants in that article that we read. Have you done more research, and I'm assuming that you did,